Hi, my name is Dwight Gillespie. This is Change Your Life, and I want to thank you for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe, hit the like, hit all that good stuff, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff that you do. Okay, so this is Change Your Life, and we try to give some practical advice on living a little bit better if you can. And today, we have a topic for you, and today's topic is courage. And this book right here, right? Do that? Well, this is just point, and I'll put it there. Okay, I did. Is Courage is Calling by Ryan Holiday. I finished the book, part of the 75 Hard. I had to read a bunch of books, which I did. And that was one that I read, and it was a good book. I enjoyed it. But it gave me an idea, and look, courage is great, right? People talk about courage. Audie Murphy, right? He's like the most decorated guy in U.S. Army history, I think. I think he still is. That took a lot of courage. You talk about these great acts of courage. The Greeks at Thermopylae, the 300 heading off the Persians and all that stuff. All that is a very courageous act, right? But these are acts that normal people don't really aren't. We're not going to engage in these things, right? These aren't going to have, unless something really catastrophic happens, God forbid, right? We're not going to find ourselves on Guadalcanal fighting and things like that. So those great acts of courage. So what is courage to regular people? And I think some of the greatest acts of courage that I had to exhibit, there were a couple of things that come to mind. One was, I have to be honest with you, losing the kids and waking up every day and working through that was very difficult. And I think personally it took a lot of courage to do that because I didn't want to. I really didn't. I wanted to check out more than anything. But there's another thing that comes to mind as well, and something that I see a lot of people, and as many I'm in a 12-step recovery program. And I think that addiction is for many of us, not for everybody, but for many people involved in recovery, that it's a generational thing. It's a family disease. It's, generally a lot of people I know come from addictive parents, it's just handed down. And a lot of mental illness and things like this. And it brings to mind, and I know a lot of people like this. I had a friend, and this person was telling me, every time I see my mother, she puts me down. She da, 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 da. And I said, well, why do you talk to her then? Well, she's my mother, I said, yeah, but every time you talk to her, you're hurt by her. Nothing is ever good enough. Everything is coming up short. You never are equal to the task. Why do you continue in that relationship? She's my mother. So, okay, I heard that, but you're not answering the question. To me, that's not a reason, and that goes back to this whole thing. You can't help who you love, and it's family. And I am of the belief that at this point in my life, especially, that you can help who you love and you can pick your family, right? You can't pick who you are biologically attached to, but you can pick who you associate with. And if these people just continually hurt you, why are you giving them your time, right? And I have to be honest, I think one of the greatest acts of courage is to stand up to somebody like that and say, enough. I obviously can't please you. And they'll gaslight you, right? If you have a narcissistic parent, they'll gaslight. It's all in your head. You're not, it didn't happen that way. That's one of my favorites because I grew up with that. And it did happen that way. Or if it didn't, then I'm really sick. And you know what? I'm going to stay away from you for your sake. How about that? I'm going to do you a favor. And I'll just stay away from you because somehow this is a toxic relationship and it isn't working. And the funny thing is right, when you get to this point, when you realize that these people are hurting you, when you realize that this is a bad situation, a bad relationship, does it matter who's right and who's wrong at that point? Oh, you're exaggerating this. Okay, maybe I am. But all the same, when I'm around you, it seems toxic. Whether it's my fault or yours. If I'm always the problem, why would you want to be around me? Because I'm your son? Because I'm your brother or your whatever it is? That's just ridiculous. So at some given point, it doesn't matter. And that and part of the courage is to walk away and be okay with it. I'm online forums all the time. And one of the things that I like to talk about is this idea that, listen, people who act toxic people, narcissistic people, sociopathic people, right? They're going to talk shit about you. They're going to say, oh my God, he's horrible. You got to be okay with it. And this is part of the courage, is to understand that this person that you're dealing with is not well, right? And anybody who's going to give them time is not well, right? If they don't know them well enough, they say, well, you eventually they'll get to know them well enough to they'll say, okay, well, now I get it, right? If not, you have to be okay with that. What do you care? I deal with a lot of people, and one of the things we have, it's called a sponsor in recovery, right? And I sponsor different people, and especially the younger guys. And one of the things I like to say when they're really upset about something, this person really, tell me somebody who upset you 5 years ago. Tell me. Well, I don't know. I said, exactly, because they're meaningless in your life, right? And you can get to a point where this is just meaningless. The best way to deal with a narcissist is to just cut them off completely. Is to just say, enough. I'm not going to deal with you on any particular level, right? I went through this in a couple of the things that I do here in recovery. And it isn't for this, it's not always the narcissist that gets me. That might know how to deal with, but people who are okay with it and they enable it. They enable that kind of behavior. And it takes courage to walk away from all of that and to not worry what these people say. Oh, why are you rocking? Just say you're sorry and get it over. This way, look, I don't walk on eggshells anymore. I don't associate with people who make me walk on eggshells anymore. I'm not going to placate people just to make sure that everybody's at peace and everybody's happy and everybody's just, no. You're enabling. I'm not going to enable people in their bad behavior anymore. I'm not going to do that, right? And it all started by exhibiting one of the greatest acts of courage that I had to do, and that was really to stand up to my mother and to say, no, I'm not doing this, because nothing was ever. I remember my mother, you're such a disappointment. I'm like, why? I had a good job, a good union job. I was supposed to be a lawyer. She told me, like, my mother was a gaslighter. She was a narcissist. It's the way she was, right? And I said to her, I said, if I was a lawyer, you would have called me an ambulance chaser. You would tell me how the world has too many lawyers and lawyers are just like, it would have never been enough, because she was exhibiting her own failures through her children. Nothing was ever good enough. Nothing was ever good enough. There was fault with everything, no matter what I achieved. And look, and it's not even worth going through the litany of it, but to understand that and say, you know what? I understand where you're coming from, and it's okay, but I'm not going to deal with you anymore, because when I deal with you, it hurts. It hurts too much. Oh, well, that's just you. You're too sensitive. Okay. All right. And to be okay with that. Okay, I'm too sensitive. Okay, I overreact. You're right. You're right. Which hurt her even more, right? But you're right. But nonetheless, I don't feel this way around these other people. I feel this way around you, right? So if I overreact, if I'm too sensitive, if I'm too dramatic, or whatever it is you want to say about, okay, I accept all that. I accept all that. All the same, call it my fault. I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore, because you hurt. So you go to the doctor, say, doctor, it hurts every time I do this. What should I do? And she said, don't do this anymore. Don't stick your thumb in your eye, and it won't hurt. And if every time I'm around a particular person, I get this feeling, right? And where I know this person is toxic for me, what am I doing? What, for the sake of keeping peace? For the sake of family? And to me, it just doesn't, it got to a point, it just didn't make sense anymore. It didn't make sense. I get to choose who I want to be around. I'm an adult. I get to choose. And people who make me feel bad about myself, people who continually put me down, people who say things for my own good. That was my favorite one. I'm telling you this, that you can live in reality. Whose reality?
You suck.
Right, exactly. You suck. And I do this for your own good. Oh, good. What the do you? Sorry. What do you know about success?
You slipped it. in there too.
There you
so
go.
It's fine.
There you go. Okay. Well, Walter will work all that out. He's magic that way. I don't have to live with people who are doing these things for my own good. One of my mother's big things was this is what a real man. He said, what do you know about a real man? You're not a man. You're not a man. And you married Dad. Dad was an alcoholic gambler, compulsive gambler who wound up killing himself. What do you know about real men? What do you know? You know, all these ideals. And that's fine. Okay. I'm not your idea of a real man. Thank God. Because I don't want to be anything that you think is ideal for that. Right. And I'm okay with me. And it really was a big part of that. And having the courage to turn my back on that and say, I've had enough. I've had enough. And to stop waiting for that apology, because I kept, oh, God. And I listen, a lot of people I see online, you know, they want that apology. You're never going to get it. They're not going to apologize. Move on. Because if that's what you're waiting for, right? There's a great Buddhist thing. If you are bitten by a snake and you wait for the snake to explain why it bit you, you'll die of the poison before you get a response. And that's what this is. You'll die of this poison before you get the apology. It's not going to come. In fact, it'll only be compounded. And you'll wind up thinking you're crazy because these people will get you to think you're nuts. You're the problem. You're oversensitive. You overreact. You. And there's no accountability on the other part. And maybe they're right. But I got to tell you, if that's the case, I don't want anything to do with you. Because it's funny, I don't overreact around all these other people. I'm not overly sensitive around all these other people. These other people are okay. I get along with them. Yeah. It takes a lot of courage. And it takes courage to stand up to your friends. It takes courage to stand up to your family and say, no, you know, I've had enough. And you make me feel bad. Regardless of whose fault it is. Maybe it is my fault, right? But I don't need this, right? I've gotten to a place through all the work I've done with myself, right? I've gotten to a place in my life where I no longer need people. I want them today. And that's a big change for me, right? To want people in my life today, to be okay with who I am. I can spend time by myself. I love sitting and reading. I love doing things that just, you know, it's just me. I'm okay with that. But I enjoy what Walter and I were talking about. I enjoy Walter's company. He's funny. He's a funny guy. He really is, you know. But people whose company I enjoy, I spend my time doing that. Life is too short for me to subject myself to people who are toxic, to, you know, people who do nothing and know everything. Like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for it. And standing up to that and standing up for what's right is very difficult, especially among your peers. Anyway, that's it for today. I want to thank you for tuning in. My name is Dwight Gillespie. That's Walter over there. Here's the book, Courage is Calling, Ryan Holiday. And that's it. That's it, folks. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. God bless. Be well.